For one reason or another, it's been over 2 weeks since I was last out with the camera, and so this morning I was absolutely desperate to get out. I have to be honest, after a layoff of over 2 weeks, I do feel a little bit rusty. So today is all about getting back out there, reconnecting with the landscape and getting my eye back in. Today I've come to Brothers Water, and I'll be honest with you, conditions are not perfect. It's quite breezy this morning, but over the weekend we did have some snow, so most of the mountains are snow-capped, most notably Hartsop Dodd, which is just behind me. As I said earlier, today's all about getting back out there and getting into the swing of things. So I'm going to start with something pretty simple. I'm at the northern end of Brothers Water, and I'm looking at Hartsop Dodd. And we have this river here, I think it's called Goldrill Beck, I think that runs from Brothers Water up to Ullswater at Patterdale. And although it's quite breezy today, we still get some sort of reflections of Hartsop Dodd in the beck itself. And so, yeah, something quite simple. Now, that was the plan anyway. What I've got, unfortunately, is I've got quite a bright sky. So at this time of year, the sun is rising in the direction that I'm facing. So I've got an extreme dynamic range. And so what I'm having to do is I'm having to use a 3-stop soft edge grad to bring down the exposure of the sky, and then I'm also bracketing 2 stops either side, and I may end up blending those together, an HDR blend in Lightroom, or I might just pick one exposure and try and recover the highlights and lift some of the shadows. Now clearly I am out of practice because I nearly forgot to take a portrait orientation shot of this scene. Normally what I like to do when I'm out and about is I like to take a landscape version and a portrait version, and that's because different orientations suit different social media platforms. And so that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to take a portrait orientation shot for Instagram specifically. Now, while I'm doing this, I should also mention I bought a new ball head. I actually damaged my old one, so I bought a new one. This is a Benro ball head. It kind of goes with my tripod, matches my tripod. I can't remember the model number, but the reason I bought it was that I just happened on the internet to find this L bracket, and this is a Benro L bracket that is made specifically for my 6D. I shoot with a Canon 6D Mark I, so this camera is now 5 or 6 years old, and this L bracket would normally cost £100 there or thereabouts, which is ridiculous for what is just a chunk of metal, really. But I got this for a tenner, and I think that's one of the advantages of using a really out-of-date camera, is that you can pick up these little bargains. So that's why I bought this L bracket, and then I got the ball head to go with it. Now, because I haven't been out shooting for a couple of weeks and I'm just trying to get back into the swing of things, the pressure's off a little bit, and that gives me the freedom to experiment, try new things. The problem with experimentation is that if you take a bad shot, particularly in my position, you end up getting criticism. When I was an amateur, I used to take a bad shot. I think people used to give me the benefit of the doubt. Now that I'm a full-time photographer, if I take a bad shot, people are ready to pounce on me, to tear me a new one, as so it were. But that's just the internet, really. That's social media. It's part of the game. And let's not forget that not everybody out there is a particularly nice person. And so that's one of those things that, you just have to deal with. It goes with the territory. The problem with criticism is that it tends to make you want to try and play safe. And that's really, really bad for your photography if it stops you from experimenting and trying new things. So with that in mind, let me take you through the shot that I'm going to try now. So I've come to the edge of Brothers Water and I found these 4 stones, and they lead the eye off towards Hartsop Dodd in the distance. So what I've done is I've set the camera low to the ground, and what that does is that cuts the distance between the stones and the background, the mountain background. And I'm going to go for a long exposure. Now, the sky is changing all the time because the clouds are moving across the sun, so the brightness of the sky is changing. So what's difficult about this shot is getting that exposure right. So I've got the big stopper on, the 10 stop ND filter. I've got a polarizer on, cranked to the max to reduce as much of the glare as I can from the surface of the water, and on top of that I've got a 3 stop soft edge grab. Now, what I'm experimenting with here is that the dynamic range is so huge that in order to get the majority of the image well exposed, I fear I'm going to have to blow out part of the sky. The problem is, on a 5-minute exposure, I don't know which part that's going to be. And so that's what I mean by saying, when I say that this is a bit of an experiment. Now I should point out, when I'm talking about criticism, I'm not talking about critique. That's where people say, your images would be better if you tried this, or this shot might work a bit better if you did that. If anything, that's really helpful. And I've learned an awful lot from some of the comments that have been left under my videos. What I'm talking about when I talk about criticism are the people that just say things like, you're not good enough to be a full-time photographer, a professional photographer. Your images are not good. Good luck being a professional photographer. Your images are rubbish. That sort of thing. Now, those people are clearly just trying to knock my confidence, and they're not going to stop me from achieving my dreams, but they do make the journey a little less enjoyable. I've just been down to the other end of Brothers Water to get my final shot of the day, and we'll come back to that in a moment. But first I want to talk about why I haven't been out for the last couple of weeks. And the main reason is that I've been doing a lot of work on my website, on my business if you like. The first thing that I've done is I've sorted my shop out. Now you may remember in last week's video I mentioned that I hadn't uploaded any photographs for a year. And that's really bad. So I've sorted that out. What I've done is there's now 20 images in my shop. And the images themselves tell a bit of a story. So from 2017, the first 6 months of my channel, from July through to December 2017, I have chosen 4 images. From the whole of 2018, I selected just 1 image. And then from this year, from the beginning of 2019, January, through to August, which is when I left my full-time job to go full-time as a photographer, I selected 5 images. And since going full-time, in just 3 months, I've put together 10 images that have made it into my shop. The other thing that I've been doing is organising my workshops for 2020. So I'm going to be running workshops from January through till the end of May at least, and that's going to be my winter and spring 2020 workshops. Now, I've put 3 up on my website already for the winter, and that's January and February, and I'm still trying to finalise the details for my spring workshops. And actually, one of the workshops that I've put up in February, we're actually going to come here to Brothers Water. So if you're interested in that, I'll leave a link to my website in the description below. You should check that out for details. So let's get back to the final shot for today. As I said, I went down to the other end of Brothers Water, and it was blowing an absolute gale down there. And I was shooting the view towards the Kirkstone Pass, which is a view I've shot many times before, but never in quite such windy conditions. And again, I was doing long exposures. We're doing exposures of about 200 seconds. And whether or not they come out sharp, I think I stand a decent chance. That Benro is a fairly sturdy tripod, and I was shooting very wide, about 20mm, and that's going to help keep that image nice and sharp. Before I go, I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody who has made a donation via my Ko-fi page. I've actually achieved my target. I now have enough money to buy all of the frames that I need for my first exhibition. It has been hugely moving for me that you guys have made such generous donations. I feel very, very humbled by it, and it is brilliant to know that I have the support of you guys, and that is giving me the confidence to really push on and get this exhibition sorted out. So keep an eye out for details of that coming up, hopefully in the new year.